Some breaking news just reaching us here at DW. Former US police officer Derek Chauvin has been sentenced to 22.5 years for the murder of George Floyd. The court first heard impact statements from Mr. Floyd's family. They'd called for the maximum jail time for Chauvin. The judge passed sentence for the most serious charge. Chauvin is still facing civil rights charges. DW correspondent Stefan Simons is in Minneapolis, in front of the courthouse where the sentencing is happening. Welcome, Stefan. So talk us through the reactions to this sentence.
Well, reactions here right after it was announced that Derek Chauvin will receive or will go to prison for 22 years and a half were subdued, actually, very calm. Now you can maybe hear this and you can see it in the background. I'm stepping out of the picture here. There's a small group of activists or protesters, pro-George Floyd protesters, and there is actually more press there. If it looks as a bigger crowd, that's not the case. This is more press than actually protesters, and they're a little bit agitated, and that has something to do that some people, allegedly white people, are asking questions they don't want to hear. One way or another, 22.5 years for Derek Chauvin. And where does this settle? 40 years would have been the maximum possible. 12.5 would have been the minimum possible. The prosecutor wanted 30 years. The prosecutor wanted 30 years, and the defense wanted Mr. Chauvin actually to walk free, probation, and walk out of here with the days kept in prison already counted and as a credit for him. Now, Cahill, the judge Cahill, came down with 22.5 years, and the reason for this are the aggregating factors which he had decided on about a month ago that they are valid. For example, that Derek Chauvin showed specific cruelty when he was for 9 minutes and 25 seconds on George Floyd's neck, and that he did what he did in the presence of minors, of children, and so on. So there you have it, 22.5 years. But here's the caveat. Is this over now? No, it is not. Why? Two reasons. A, there is an appeal expected. Defense has about 90 days, 3 months' time to file an appeal and to appeal this judgment from Judge Cahill. Here, the state judges, state charges. Reason number two is there is a federal case still pending against Mr. Chauvin, and that is a civil rights case from federal prosecutors. There's not even a court date for this now, so everything, all things considered, Chauvin and court and how many years he goes to prison, etc., is still an ongoing story.
Right, so 22.5 years for the murder of George Floyd. You talked us through the immediate reaction there outside the courthouse. Is it too early to have heard from the Floyd family or indeed the Chauvin legal team?
Yeah, it is too early. The Floyd family has spoken during what is called a victim statements period, where the victims could make impact statements. And the two brothers of George Floyd, they were speaking before the sentence was announced, and they had, and that was quite impressive, a lot of trouble actually to stay on point, very emotional, had trouble to speak, had to pause many times and wipe away tears. They talked about the impact for the family, and one brother said and asked and begged or pleaded with the court, saying, I ask you to give him the possible maximum sentence. Whatever is legally possible, please throw the book at him. That gives the family closure. We're expecting the family to speak out in a little bit. Not sure exactly when this will happen, but I assume it will happen, and then we'll know more on this. Now, towards the crowd here in Minneapolis, there is no riots or anything expected here. There will be maybe a shouting here, shouting there, and a little march down the street or around the Hennepin Government Center, but that's about it.
All right, Stefan Simons in Minneapolis, thank you so much.